Welcome to the Danbury Democrats. My name is John Gogliettino. I'm your host. This evening we're going to be talking to the next level down from the top of the ticket. We're going to be talking about the town clerk and the treasurer position. And with me we have Andrea Gartner, who's running for town clerk, and we have Kate Johnson, who's running for treasurer. They're both unique people that know how to walk the streets and knock on many doors in their quest for office, and we're going to find out a little bit about them. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay,
and
you're
Andrea.
welcome.
I keep having to correct you, John.
Okay.
Andrea, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Tell us about your backgrounds first.
Sure.
As much as you like,
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So I'm a long-time native of the greater Danbury area. I grew up really close to Danbury right on the Bethel-Danbury line over in the Stony Hill area. And a lot of my time was spent growing up in downtown Danbury and doing things in and around Danbury. And my parents were both they were immigrants, so we relied a lot on things coming into Danbury, cultural organizations, and just getting everything downtown. Then when I graduated Bethel High School, I thought I needed to get really, really far away and away from this city, this town, and realized that, oh my gosh, it's a really great place to be, and raise my family in Ridgefield, and then I moved back to Danbury in 2010.
Very good. Go ahead, Kate.
Well, I grew up right over the border in Pawling, New York.
Okay.
And when I was barely 18 years old, just 18, I got hired at Cafe on the Green at Richter Park Golf Course. And that brought me to Danbury. It introduced me to so many people in the community, and I stayed there for 12 years. And it made me move to Danbury. I went to WestCon for a time, and I've lived in Danbury since around 2005, and I love it.
And we've talked about this, how you wanted to so get out of your town, right?
Yes.
And Danbury's the perfect size city.
Yes. Danbury was the big city to somebody growing up in Pawling. But I love that it also has some pastoral settings as well. There's trees, there's greenery, but there's also the city and the culture and the different people. And I love that. Those were all things I was lacking. So.
Okay. Tell us about your previous to running, your social and political activities that led you to the point you are today, running for these offices, starting with Andrea.
Oh, okay. Sure. When I lived in Ridgefield, I had served on a commission there, and so that was probably my first entree into public service. And when I moved to Danbury, I got more involved, really focused on what could be done for downtown revitalization through my previous position at City Center, and just realized it's important to be engaged if you really want to have input in how your municipality is run. And I just started getting more and more involved. So previously I've run for City Council at large. I also currently am an elected member of the Zoning Commission, but am in this municipal election seeking the office of Town Clerk.
Very good. Kate?
My story is a little different than that. I've always loved politics. I've always read about it. I watch C-SPAN for fun. Nobody does that. But I didn't actually get involved until after the 2016 election. I went to the Women's March in Washington, and then after that I joined up with a few local political groups, and they encouraged me and pointed me in the direction of my local DTC, the Danbury DTC, and started going to meetings and worked in the 2017 and 2018 election cycles, volunteering for multiple candidates, knocking on doors, making phone calls. And then when it came time to pick a slate for this election, with my knowledge and commitment already to other candidates, why not be a candidate myself?
You got a CPA background.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am a certified public accountant.
All right, very good. And let's see, tell us about what concerns you have with government, starting with you, Andrea.
Sure. I think something I've really seen that has risen to the surface, especially in the last year and a half. What I didn't mention before too is I'm also chairman of the Danbury Democratic Town Committee, so the party in town. So really trying to affect change in Danbury. And I think one of the frustrations I've experienced and really focused on things that are meaningful to me. And I think when you talk about community building, for me, it's a vibrant downtown. It's also just a really thriving arts and cultural community. And in the last 10 to 15 years, I feel like both of those really value-added assets in a community have really been neglected. And so that's what I would like to see change. And there's been decisions in local government that have favored development in other areas of the city, but also that development hasn't really been so transparent. So I think one of the things I'm really interested in doing is just having more transparency in our government and more accountability to the citizens of Danbury.
Okay. Go ahead, Kate.
I definitely agree. Transparency is something that we need, every citizen needs here. And I think that our Danbury residents, that the city needs to work for everyone. It can't just work for those who are already doing well. It has to work for everyone. A recent study came out that nearly half of our population is at or near the poverty line. And where the Danbury is always touted as it's growing, it's thriving, and it is, but it isn't for everyone. And I'd really think that it can, and it should.
Well, I have to agree with Kate on that, because it's really about supporting, people come to Danbury because it's a great place to raise families, but there's dual income parents at home, and when you support families, working families in the community, it really it builds a stronger community.
Now, how would you improve the offices there you're running for? Would you have like workshops, have people come in? This is what you actually, as Tweezer used to say, Mike Siri, he used to say, we hatch them, we match them, and we dispatch them. That's what the town clerk.
About the office of the town clerk.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's the office of the town clerk is also the keeper of the records, right? So there's a lot of people who go in and want access to the public records, and it's keeping track of that. I think sometimes people don't always know how to go about that, and it can feel a little intimidating. So, the idea of presenting, public workshops on, how do you
your birth records,
right, property records. If someone buys a historic house, it's always so interesting to see what the land records reveal. I think there's also things that the town clerk's office could promote more. For example, make sure dogs are licensed, and have a campaign to make people aware of their dogs, and that can be in conjunction with other animal, rescue groups in the community.
Just on that, the licensing of dogs, you lose certain rights if it's not a licensed dog. If your dog is properly licensed and something should happen to the dog, it's easier to prove that, okay, this was a legal animal in the town, and and people they think it's just a fee, but it also gives protection.
People are good pet owners and bringing their pets to the vets. It's a little in addition to that. So I think there is room for educating the public about what the office of the town clerk does.
All right. Same question.
Well, the treasurer position is really a position of internal control. Internal control is a core fundamental principle to accounting in the United States, and it's something that I had to study profusely to not only have my bachelor's degree, but to pass the CPA exam and earn my license. It is an integral part, and it has to do with there needs to be a separation of duties in order to make sure that all the money is accounted for. And bringing a background in accounting, I think, could be a very big improvement to the office of the treasurer, something that hasn't been in that office since before I was alive.
All right. All right, very good. Do you feel that your office in any way has been underperforming, particularly in your case, or you haven't gotten that far as studying the office and the operations of it? Is there anything you'd like to improve specifically?
Well, I think when you're at any level in municipal government, when you're dealing with the public, that there's always room for improvement. So maybe perhaps
the hours, maybe.
The hours, yeah, in the
you can make an argument on
available.
That. You can make an argument on that. The 4-day week that we have, and how it's such an inconvenient.
I felt that as a former small business owner that it was often a burden that City Hall was closed on Fridays. So while the staff is putting in the same hourly per week, I think it is an inconvenience to the public to be closed on that Friday.
All right. Now this question is really not. It doesn't really pertain as much as you're basically your public is relying on you to do your job, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And maybe we're having a workshop on it. There might be some
Possibly.
people that might want to come in and see that. Okay, do you want to share with us at this point in time your phone numbers and emails in case anybody have any specific questions out there that I haven't asked, or maybe want elaboration on something?
Yeah, sure. We both have websites. They're kind of the same. Mine's Andrea Gartner for Danbury, and Kate's is Kate Johnson for Danbury.
Okay.
My email address is my first name, the number 4 in Danbury, so Andrea4Danbury@gmail.com. And sure, people can call 203-470-8005.
Okay.
And my email address is katejohnson4treasurer, 4 spelled out, FOR, @gmail.com. And my phone number is 203-460-6061.
Okay, so what are you finding as you go? I think what you've been doing, we talked about it before, but I didn't ask you that question, is naturally you're going door to door and you're knocking on doors, and I've been seeing some evidence of that on Facebook. From time to time I see your smiley faces.
We go out together.
Your
often.
smiley faces are there, and you're going door to door.
And we have an extra advantage when we door knock, or I have the advantage when I door knock with Kate, is that she has her adorable son with her. So it's a great opener when we're reaching out to people in their home and willing to talk to us.
But what are you finding? What are people saying to you? Starting with yourself, Andrea.
Well, I think, and it's funny because when you are involved in the way that we are with local, party politics, or just local parties, that it's not always on everyone's mind that it's actually an election year this year in our city. So that's the first thing we always try to ferret out, is like, you may not be aware it's an election year. And people are like, oh, they do need to be reminded it's an election year.
Yeah, like when's the election? They're really not paying any attention.
So we talk about that. We're always talking about wanting to bring democratic change to Danbury.
And are you hearing anything in particular? Do you hear a little bit about the roads, or
Hear a lot about the schools. Why are the surprise that we are last in per pupil spending in the state out of 169 districts, and the shock that it's been allowed to happen in the city that's growing in our state.
Yeah, one of the fastest growing cities in the state of Connecticut, and we're not doing either one.
Well, it's not,
they are addressing the roads a bit now, but
Yeah.
you would think after 4 years of having the roads crumble, and then now you're starting to do some work.
That's development, but it's it's been unplanned development, and that's
Yeah.
some of the things that we've been able to talk about, is the burden on the roads and the schools for this mostly unplanned residential development. I mean, it's great that Danbury is growing because the rest of Connecticut isn't necessarily doing that. And we have a lot that attracts people, but it really needs to be planned growth. What we see now is the result of 18 years not necessarily planning for the abundance of residential housing that has come into our market.
Or even in the west side, on all the restaurants that were put in. A lot of them were put nilly-willy, and you don't. they really weren't planned out, like
Yeah.
some places there's a driveway and a light, and other places people are just racing out of the side roads, and
Yeah, there's not a lot of cohesiveness
there wasn't planning.
or forethought really put into that. And residential growth isn't a bad thing, but the density that we have seen, especially on the west side, has caused problems that we're dealing with right now. We hear about that.
Okay. Well, I can't say you're going to be doing anything in particular about that. Anything else that have you taken a look at the office or contemplated maybe you're a little light on people to do the work? Have there been any complaints about the town clerk's office while you've been out there?
Honestly, I really haven't. I might have to. I interface with the town clerk's office, so I can certainly say everything is satisfactory. I think one of them. I'm not going to speak for Kate here, but I know one of my reasons for choosing to run in this position was really to serve the top of the ticket, to serve the strong candidate that Chris Sotero is. One thing I truly appreciate about Chris is that he wants to be mayor. Would be his dream job. It's not necessarily a stop on another destination that he has. I think the 3 attempts at state office for our current mayor has really impacted our Danbury, has impacted our city, and it's been a detriment. This is a man who will give his full attention to the office.
All right. He was away so long that the roads were never, I've been here all my life in Danbury, and never seen the roads as in bad shape up until this year. All of a sudden they're fixing them with months to go. They're fixing roads, as fast as they can. But, for years we've had, pretty bad roads, and it's like catch up, He's just catching up on things right now, and it says a lot about what we have, and we need to improve with a different team.
And your son just started kindergarten, did he?
My son did just start kindergarten at Great Plain. Yes, he did.
So we need a different team to improve on what we have.
It's really about a better Danbury. I mean, Danbury is great the way, there's a lot of things that are great about Danbury, but we're really committed to making things better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And any thoughts on well, we're not here to talk about the budget, but any thoughts about that, the way we're talking about the schools. So what would you say about that from what you studied, Kate?
I think that we can definitely have better priorities when it comes down to the budget. Yes, we need to ensure that we are getting enough funding from the state as well, but our students should be our main priority. They have been woefully underfunded for many, many years at the same time as exponential growth. And again, as Andrea said, it's wonderful that our city is growing and thriving, but it needs to thrive for everyone, especially our students, because we want them to succeed. The longevity of Danbury depends on our student body succeeding, and we need to give them all the tools to do that.
Right, and I would think that if we don't educate them, then what's going to happen with the kids is they're going to run out of steam, not go on with school, and then they're become juvenile delinquents. They have the potential if they're last in the class, or they're not going on to college, or they're not going on to a 2-year college or whatever, taking up a trade or whatever. It's the schooling makes a difference.
Yes,
a big difference. Yeah. You have anything you like that?
No, except seasonal allergies are killing me. Sorry about that.
Yeah, but education says a lot, and it means a lot in a campaign like this. And Chris has definitely said that he wants to do something about that, and obviously the Common Council candidates have been saying the same.
Well, and he's also talking about doing it without raising taxes.
Right.
To be clear. Yeah.
And as somebody else has pointed out to me, another fellow Democrat, for all of the residents who do not have children in the school system, and some say, well, that's not my problem, but it also lowers everyone's property values. If you ask, when my son was a baby, and I said, oh, I want to stay in Danbury, but their schools are terrible. You hear it from everyone in every greater Danbury area, every other town thinks our schools are terrible. And I don't. I think our schools are wonderful, but that affects property values when there's that perception. And
if you don't spend the money,
yes.
you're sort of like what you're saying is coming true. You're aiding your prediction. Oh, things are bad there. Well, you're making it happen by not spending the money on there, and you're taking care of the short run for maybe your next 5 years here, and then you retire and you're going to leave a social mess. You know, with a lot of undereducated kids and kids that may be going bad because they're not properly engaged with school.
And as Andrea said, you know, Chris Sotero wants to do it without raising taxes, and that's why it's about priorities. What are your priorities for how to spend the money that the city raises? And the students and the education should be our top one.
Andrea, do you have any?
Yeah, and work with our Hartford delegation as well. I mean, Chris is the first to say that he's going to personally lobby Hartford to make sure we get adequate funding for our schools and for other projects.
With the additional reps that we have now, that we're listened to a little more, but you know, having a mayor of the same party to go up and visit with the governor and the people up there.
Well, it certainly opens conversation.
Yeah.
And then also with the roads, to do that through a bond that works off of the retiring debt. So there is no increase in taxes.
Right.
Because there hasn't been a comprehensive traffic plan study done for over 30 years right now.
That's probably right.
Yeah, and half that time was 15 years ago, which is within the 18 years of this current administration.
Right, that's true.
So that's what we really talk about when we don't think of adequate planning or planning ahead.
We got about 4 minutes left. So anything you can think of at this point in time, I think we've covered most of what we can cover here. But as a recap, you're both running, for your respective office of treasurer and town clerk, and have impressive backgrounds. Anything else that you might want to mention that you,
sure.
what are some of the things that prepared you for your
well,
this
I would
office?
also just say, if anyone who's tuning in wants to volunteer, we have volunteers for all of our campaigns. Volunteer. We will teach you how to canvass. We will teach you how to door knock. We are working at a very grassroots level to get this done. And we're encouraged by it because our state elections in 2018 were very much grassroots. And we are just putting ourselves out to Danbury Democrats especially, that this year affords a real choice in how Danbury moves forward. The other thing candidate Sotero has is experience with the city council. He served on the city council for 10 years. He does understand the machinations of government and budgeting and how to get things done, because he was also president of the city council when he served. So I just want to emphasize that to do that, you need to get involved. You need to vote first and foremost. Yes. November 5th, need to vote.
Municipal elections matter. They matter just as much as national elections, as your state elections, your city elections. This is about what
closer.
Your tax dollars are going to be spent on in your own city, in the town you live in, and what priorities is your city's administration making and setting for you. Are you happy with the current priorities? Are you not happy with the current priorities? And as Andrea said, your voice is your vote.
And
this
we
is-
can all be very frustrated with what's going on. It doesn't matter, if you're listening and tuning in. There's, you think we have to be for or against. I happen to think that we all live in the same community. We have more in common. It's just a matter that if you really don't know, if you don't like what's going on outside of your town, you can do something within something that's just right in front of you and take action. And I
Right.
think getting involved in local elections, I find that really rewarding because it is something that you can do.
And it's right here. You go out the door and you're in the community. You go down to the corner store. It's all here. It's not 50 miles away. It's not 100 miles away.
No, and it's really important.
You influence what goes on here at the local school. There's neighbors of yours or neighbors down the block or whatever. They're all influenced by what goes on locally. And if you want less educated kids to be in your neighborhood, that's what you get if you continue the way it's been for 18 years. So if you want to change, right? That's the expression.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. So you come out and vote the change or work on voting the change.
Yes. I had the experience one time of a brand new door knocker. He was a retired school teacher, and he just basically said, well, I've never done this before, so I figure I need to do something. So he came out to door knock, and he said, well, I'll probably still complain, but now I feel like I have a right to because I'm doing something about it.
One more time, your website.
Sure.
And your email.
It's a Facebook page, Andrea Gartner for Danbury, and my email is my first name, Andrea, the number 4, danbury@gmail.com.
And my Facebook page is Kate Johnson for Danbury, and my email address is katejohnson4treasurer@gmail.com.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week, same time, same station.